like that. Now, he read it so that no one could cheat us, his heirs, out of what belongs to us. He made it possible for us to have it all. However, just as an earthly will, you have to let those in charge know that they're the ones that have inherited something. You have to appropriate what's yours. And see, if somebody dies, and the attorneys or the family or somebody else is not honest enough to say, well, we can't stand you, but since Tyrone died, we want you to know he did will you, he left you these shades. Well, somebody don't like you, they're not going to tell you that. You could have had the shades, which were worth $17 million. You just could have sold the shades and got you a house or something. But no one wanted to tell you that because they didn't like you. Satan hates you. He's not going to tell you what was written for you. I'm trying to get somewhere with this. He's not going to tell you. And he'll make you so mad at the church that God called you. God called you to the church. Remember, you didn't pick this church. You ain't that brilliant. You had no idea. This church was nowhere on your map. You were not headed to Dallas. You were not on your way to Oak Cliff. You sure would hang out in this neighborhood. But God navigated your life so you could get in the place, so he could tell you your rights, and so you could inherit. God said, I'm tired of you being broke, busted, and disgusted. It's time for you to find out. God said, I'll change everything around you just to get you in the church I want you to be in. Your whole life will change just to get you in the church so you can find out what your inheritance is. Now some of you are about to find out how your life was navigated, not towards your career, but towards you receiving the word. And that's why it's not hard for you to shake loose your tired day, because really your faith is in Jesus, and faith came by hearing, and hearing by God's word. See, to everybody else, it might not make sense for you to come to church 5 days after being so tired. But to you, your life is hooked up in it. Every year, hundreds of thousands of dollars go to the state government because people don't cash in on their inheritance. Millions of dollars are held in banks in every state because people are entitled to money that was left to them, but they never claimed it. Why? Because they were never notified. It is a shame that most of you in here are broke, busted, disgusted, mean, angry, discouraged because you don't know what was left in the will. And it's just sitting there. It's just sitting there. What was in the will? Let's look at verse 13. Verse 12 said, giving thanks to the Father which had made us meet, made us able. Tell somebody, I'm able. See, now that's just not something you can say. That's word-based. I'm able to be a partaker of the inheritance of the saints in life. I ain't got to be jealous of what you have. My Father left me. Why you been broke so long? Because I just got the news. I just got the news. But let me say this too. Some of you will realize, and this is no harmful thing, but some people, there's a saying, some people are worth more dead than alive. I've seen people who lived almost broke their whole lives, but they had an insurance policy over here. They couldn't cash in on it because as long as they were living, you couldn't collect on it. You had to die in order for it to materialize. Hello? One time I won a scholarship, and in my scholarship they gave me some, I think the word was savings bonds or something like that. It's way back in the 1900s. And me not having money, I got all these savings bonds, and also I went on to the bank. I'm trying to get the money in savings. I'm going to say this. Let's say the savings bond was about, I guess I'll just make up a number. I'll say it's $100. So I got all these savings. So I'm going to take one of these savings bonds out because I need some money. I want to get $100. I went to the bank with the savings bond, and the lady said, okay, if you bring in those right now, we can give you $60, $70 or somewhere, whatever it was. And I'm saying, excuse me, ma'am, this says $100. You know, because when you got money, you talk funny. You ever notice that? It's $100. That's when you put your hand on there and you look at them like, I need my $100. And so she said, you can get your $100, but you have to wait until, like, to me it sounded like she said $20.99, you know. And she said it has to mature. In other words, you got to grow up too. What's been invested is invested, but you got to get old enough to know how to handle this kind of money. Which is the reason that some young people can get scholarships and careers in the national leagues and get millions of dollars, and the next few years you find out when you hear from them they are completely broke. Why? Because they had the money, but they didn't grow in the knowledge of what to do with it. Some children have the skills to drive, but they don't have the maturity to get behind the wheel. That's a thing you have to mature into. And I'm going to be honest with you and tell you, you got to be almost 50 before you learn to slow down. Amen. I'm driving now, and if people pass me walking, I'm thinking I must slow down. I like to look at every tree when I drive now. There was a time when I didn't even, have you ever driven somewhere and didn't even know what you passed? Have you ever gotten to your destination and go, shoes, I didn't even pass the store today? You were gone. But there are some things you have to mature into. There are some words you're hearing now. Teenagers are probably not really listening to what I'm saying tonight. As much as they get the word and love their church and all, tonight this is not really registering to them. But for some of you, it's finally setting in that you have been without for so long because you didn't know that you were supposed to have. Your prayers have been based on other folks' complaints. Verse 13 goes on to say, who hath delivered us, we're staying in the word, from the power of darkness and hath translated us into the kingdom of his dear son. In verse 13, notice the word hath, underline hath again. That's an old English word that corresponds with the word that we use today called has. Whenever you see hath, it means has. Now, God has delivered us from the power of darkness. First thing I want you to understand here is somebody will tell you that you're on your way to hell. Well, according to the contract, God has delivered us from the power of darkness. That lets us know that deliverance is not going to come. Deliverance has already come. Most of you are walking around here in bondage because somebody keeps telling you God is going to deliver you. I had a situation the other day in church when a young lady was talking about the things she was going through. And I said, "Guess away, baby, don't worry, God has delivered you." And some people wanted to debate with me as a pastor. First of all, stop debating with me. Stop debating with me. Because I'm not listening to you. I speak word. You talking television stuff. And when you debate with me, one of the first things you're doing is let me know whose side you're on. Because demons are so ignorant, they will speak out when God's trying to bring somebody out. Deliverance has come. You're not going to be delivered. You already are delivered. Do you think Jesus died, brought the will back for you to read? The will said that he had delivered us from the power of darkness. If you are a Christian, every born-again person has been delivered. But Pastor, I smoke. You've been delivered. But I'm having sex. You've been delivered. But I get drunk. You've been delivered. I'm not talking about what you do. I'm talking about what God did for you. Some of you have children that are going to get picked up for shoplifting with a pocket full of money. They're not poor. They stole something. If you are born again, I need you to tell somebody right now, I am delivered. You are delivered. We are delivered. We are, it's present tense, set free. Why? Because God has already, the Bible said, set us at liberty from the power of darkness. So why are you still paying for groceries that you've already eaten? There was a sentence on your head. He paid the sentence, bailed you out. The cell is open, but you still standing behind the bars. You don't have to stand behind the bars. You just made jail your home. There are no doors or locks on your prison. You are just afraid to go out there and get hurt all over again. Some of you have been institutionalized. You've been living like that so long that when God says you're free, you're afraid to walk out on faith because this is where you've been fed. This is where you've been rescued. You got free meals. But God says, I got more than what you can see. You've been delivered. You say, I don't believe it. I don't even care what you don't believe. You're free whether you believe it or not. This is going to mess some of you up. Your deliverance is not based on your faith. Even if you don't believe it, he already did it. Satan just doesn't want you to know what was willed to you. And if you don't know what was willed to you, you're not going to live like you've been delivered. Your prayers are full of pain. Your testimonies are still full of pain. Your conversations are full of pain. There is no deliverance in your conversation. Yesterday was bad. Today is bad. Tomorrow is bad for you. It's important to understand where you've been delivered from in order to appreciate where you've been delivered to. He said you've been delivered from the power of darkness. The word translated power in verse 13, power is the Greek word exousia, and that means authority. A better translation would be, who has delivered us from the authority of darkness. Am I talking too fast? See, using power as it's translated there gives the wrong impression. Satan and his demons and troops obviously still have some power, but not the power that he had when he was in heaven, not like that. But still some supernatural power to influence and all of that. However, the authority of the least Christian can override Satan's power and put him under. When you are a Christian, it's not how long you've been a Christian, it's that you are a Christian. That's what makes him do what you say. Now, you have a lot of people that are into what I call exhibitionism. And an exhibitionist is the person who makes you think that there are certain things you got to do to show your power. When we stand here before service and tell Satan to get out, I don't care if you just came to Jesus last weekend. He is going to get out because you said so, not because you have the years of service to back it up. Your word is enough because your word comes from the will that you've been delivered from the power of darkness. And so what you say, Satan knows has a lot of meaning behind it. What he hopes, though, is you don't learn what to say. And you can't learn what to say if you're not in your church. You're not going to be delivered from homosexuality. You've already been delivered from that. That's not something they got the right to vote on in Washington. Well, I don't care if President George Washington came back and said that. Nobody's delivered because a politician said that. And no politician has the right to put you back in that bondage. Our country is about reading the Bill of Rights. Well, let's read the bill right. We don't go by the Bill of Rights. We go by the Bill of Righteousness. That's why I was not selected and voted to pastor. I was called. Don't you know this word that God has given me to give to you? If it were up to Satan, he would make sure that I was not voted to speak on God's behalf. But every demon in hell has come against me from the day I was born to make sure that I didn't get the message to you. You are just like slaves before somebody came and read the note. Hey, y'all free. Why are you still on the plantation when you've been... After a while, they stop trying to kill the slaves. They say, go for the nigger that learned how to read. Kill him. Kill him. Kill him, because if they get the word, they gonna come out. Oh! And when they found out that they were free, they came together and they kicked the doors down. When you find out how free you are, you're going to walk into that interview and say, this is my job, and I'm here today to sign up for it. They might tell you no 15 times, but every time you go back, you're going to say, I got a contract. I heard the wheel read. It wasn't a politician. It wasn't a community person. They found out they were free from the preacher who couldn't read, but he heard from God. In the 14, 15, 16, 1800s, the same Bible that you have now is the same Bible they had. They couldn't read it. So God had to speak to his man and say, speak to my people.